Hello, welcome to today's Learn Scratch tutorial, and today we're going to be doing a grid bikes style game. So let me show you how it works. Let's get started. There we go, we've got a nice little intro loop on the drums there, and if we click start, it should take us through to the main game itself. So you can move your characters around. The only controls is left and right, and the idea is to avoid the other person's grid lines that you can see he's making. And if you crash into it, you lose. So it's a two-player game using the these little bike things. Here we go. So let's get started. Get yourself onto Scratch and click on Create. And the first thing we're going to do is we'll set up the background stage, and then we'll do the Start button. So let's click on the stage. And for today's background, we're going to be using one of the inbuilt backgrounds. If we scroll down to the bottom, just down here, I'm going to use the 30 pixel grid. Good, there it is. Let's get rid of the other background. And all I'm going to do here is, let's change the colours. Let's do like a dark blue. And we'll click on the fill. And we'll fill it in. There we go. That's a nice little colour. We'll do that nice little blue. So there's my background sorted. And let's get rid of Scratch. Let's paint ourselves a new sprite. Choose one from the library, and we will use the S letter as the first letter. So if you click on the S, it will appear here in the Scratch sprites area. What we need to do now is we need to get the other letters, but we don't add them as separate sprites. We put them all in the same sprite as a new costume. So we've got the S, let's do the T, and then let's get the others. Here we go. There's the A, S, T, A, R, and we don't need a second T because we're going to reuse this one. So now what we do is we click on the S, let's drag that over there a bit, and what we'll do, just drag the other letters are, there you go, into this costume. Drag them over, S, T, A, R, T. There we go. And we'll just make them nice and neat. There we go. Get rid of the other letters. There we go. Good. Start. Good. So there's our start. It's a little bit big. If I actually, let's just move that there. Up to a line. A little bit large. Let's just select all of it, and we'll make it about half the size. There you go. Good. So there's our start button. And here we go. Our start button script, nice and simple. All we do is we say when we start, at the start of the game, we need to show the start button. And there we go. When it's clicked, we need to do a broadcast. And let's do start game. Start game. There you go. Oh, and we need to hide it as well. There you go. So the start of the game, it will show. When we click it, it will broadcast start game, and it will hide that sprite. So let's have a look. We click on it, it hides. Press start, it shows. Good. So there's the start button, which is perfect. And we also want the grid bikes title screen here to appear as well. You guys, if you click on costumes, you can choose a sprite from the library, and then, add yourself a new sprite. There you go. And you can add all your letters again. So click new sprite, do all your letters for grid bikes. There we go. So you do all that for the sprite. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to use my existing one, because otherwise it will take ages. There we go. Let's use my grid bikes one that I've got. And we'll make that a little bit smaller. You can, if you don't want to spend time pulling all the letters in, if you just want to do it quickly, if you look in the link on the video, there's a link through to the actual text if you want to use that. So there we go. Good. Done. There you go. Grid bikes and start. And when we click start, it goes through to that page. Now what we need to do as well is make sure the grid bikes disappear, so that when we press start, the grid bikes also disappear. That logo disappears. So let's go to events. When I receive start game, I'll hide. And of course, when we press start, we need to show. There we go. So now press start, it shows. If I click start, it hides, ready for the actual game. Good. So there's the first bit, nice and easy. What we're going to do now is we're going to add the bike, or one of the bikes. So I'm going to use that grid bike. There you go, the grid bike ping. There's my bike, which is good. Excellent. A little bit large, so let's make him a bit smaller. There we go. Nice and small. Now, a good trick here that I always use is you might be tempted to click on new sprite and upload both of your players at the moment. Don't bother doing that just yet, because what we'll do is we'll get one player working, do all the coding on the one player, and then what we can do is upload the other player, or just duplicate this sprite for the other player. So that's okay, good stuff. When start clicked, let's turn him, let's point in direction up. Yay, there you go. And let's drag him to the position where I want him to be, which is there. So we drag him to where we want him to start, first of all, which is going to be there. And then we drag the go to, because if you notice here, as I drag, just look at these figures here, as I drag the bike around, you'll see that it moves it to the correct, it changes the go to represent where he is now. So it's a nice easy little tip, so you don't have to type those in. So when we press start, it goes to over there, which is good. And we also want it to show as well, because I like him at the start of the game showing. There you go, we'll have him showing there and the other one showing there. There we go, good. So what do we need to do? Well, we now need to get him so he can turn. Let's have a look. Now with this particular player, he's on the left, so we're going to use the A and the D key. A turns left and D key turns right. There we go. There we go. And we'll turn 15 degrees left. Now I don't normally use this when pressed setup here. I normally use a loop, a constantly checking loop with an if statement. But the reason we're using this one is because I want it so that you have to press the key and then let go before it will register another key press. Otherwise it will just keep turning. So there you go. So when A press turn left, 90 degrees to the left, 90 degrees counterclockwise. When D pressed, go 90 degrees clockwise. So hopefully now press start, you can see. Let's have a look. There you go. Good. Excellent. So there he is so far. We've got him, he can turn, which is good, and ready to start. Good. Okie dokie. So what do we want to do? Well, when the game starts, when I receive start game, we need him to go inside of a loop that's a constant movement loop. So let's have a look. When I receive start game, what we'll do is we'll just move him 2 steps at a time. You don't want to go too quick, because this game is all about strategy, so you want to go nice and slow. So let's have a look. Let's try that. So hopefully when I press start, there you go. He now moves around the board. There we go. Good. Now, there we are. Perfect. Let's just stop that, and let's click start, and he goes back to the start at the start, which is good. So when I press start game, it's going to move 2 steps, which is good. Here we go. Costume. Make sure that's... Now, what we need to do is make sure that that's at the center of the costume. It might change in a bit when we start to debug our game and make sure it's all working correctly, but at the moment I'll leave the center just there. The reason we need to know where the center is because what we're going to do now is we're going to use the pen, and at the start of the game what we'll do is when I see start game, we will clear the whole thing, and we'll put the pen down. And let's set the pen color to green. There you go. So he can be green. So what it's going to do now, and we'll set the pen size to 2. So now the pen will go down on that arrow, on that little center point there, and wherever he drives to, there will be a green line, or hopefully there'll be a green line that follows him, and that's our line. Let's have a look. Click start. No. Let's have a look what we've done there. Let's have a quick look. When I receive... Oh! Oops. That's supposed to say pen down. I was wondering why that wasn't working. There we go. Try again, press start, and perfect. There's our green line. Now looking at that now, the green line sort of fading into the background a bit there, so I probably want to change that to, let's change it to a different colour. Let's do like that orangey yellow colour there. That will do. There we go. So press start. There we go. And that's a little bit more visible now. Obviously you're going to play about with your colours, make sure that you've got colours that stand out well enough, etc. And there you go. So now we've got a character that wherever he goes, he draws a line, which is good. Brilliant. So we've got him going around, and we've got him drawing a line. What we need to do now is we need to add the bit of our code that checks to see if he's going to crash into something. And this is nice and simple. Nice and simple. All we do here is we use an if statement, and we use if. There we go. Inside of here, after the move 2 steps, if he is, let's have a look, touching, and let's have a look what we do now. We could do if touching colour orange there. So let's just show you this, but there's a problem with it. We could do there if touching colour orange, then we could say, let's just test it with a hello, or just put ouch. Ouch. Now we could do it like that, but let's just say ouch, there you go. So now, let's just put start, and we've already, oops, let's put start again. There you go. We've already got a problem, and the problem is, of course, is that here, if you use the if touching colour, that is if any of this sprite here is touching that colour. So that's a problem, because of course, as soon as he puts that line down, he's going to be touching the colour. So that's no good. So what we do instead is we use a little trick, and we use colour is touching colour. And what we do is we check to see if that helmet, the red helmet, which is why we did it a different colour, is touching that orange colour. So we click the red helmet, click on the orange there, and now we press start. There you go. You can see that it's getting a little bit better. Let's try that again. Click start. It's already starting to get a little bit better, but there is a problem still. Is that if you notice, if he goes really close to the line there, notice there how as soon as he touched his head against that there, there we go. As soon as he touched his head against it, you're okay, not too bad there. As soon as he touched his head against the line, rather than the centre of the character against the line, he lost straight away there. So we want to make that a little bit less sensitive, a little bit less sensitive. And the way we do that is we have a kind of damage system here. So we say, okay, if you're not instantly touching, but let's say if he's touching for a certain amount of like milliseconds or times through. So what do we do here? Well, what we say here is we don't kill him just there. We create a variable for this sprite. And let's set the variable to called damage. Good. What we do is let's start the game. There we are. Let's set. When I see start game, set the damage to 0. Let's have a look. And if that's touching that, then change the damage by 1, which is okay. And now what we do is we have a separate loop. Here we go. There we go there. And what we do is we just say, okay, if the player damage is greater than 2, if the player damage, there you go. Good. So if his damage is greater than 2, then we broadcast game over. Let's look, but we won't do that yet. Let's just test it. Let's make sure it's right, which is good. That's okay. Damage is greater than 2. Excellent. And now what we'll see is, hopefully, let's have a look. Oops. So that should be okay now. That should be a little bit better. Let's try that again. think I need to make my bike a little bit smaller as well, actually. It's still quite big. There we go. In fact, actually, what I need to do as well, I think might not be a bad idea, is if I set the centre of the costume as close as I can behind that the red head thing there. Let's have a look. Let's try that again. That hopefully, oops, yeah, I don't think we're far off there. There we are. Good. There you go. So that's looking a bit better now, isn't it? There you go. Brilliant. And what we can also do here, he's got his damage as 1, is each second as it's going through the game, each second we'll just reset that damage back down to 0, so that it will kick. If he does touch a line slightly, then if he touches 2 lines slightly separately, it's not going to mean game over. So what we do here is we just do when start clicked. We go forever. Wait 1 second. So every second we'll just set his damage to 0, and that will just reset it every second or so, which just helps bring it just helps tweak the game slightly so that it's not too sensitive. Good. So if that colour is switching that colour, change damage by 1, which is good. So what do we want to do here? We don't want to say hello to end the game. What we need to do here instead is we need to say, okay, it's going to be game over. So let's broadcast game over. Broadcast game over. New message, game over. Game over, because it's going to be game over. And we also need to tell the computer who's won. So let's create a new variable to store it in, and let's call it winner. There we are. This one we leave for all the sprites because it's going to be a global winner. It's not the winner just for him. And there's the winner, and we'll set the winner to player 1. Make sure your winner goes above the broadcast game over, because otherwise what might happen is it broadcasts game over, it changes it to the display which player it is, and it actually displays the winning player before it's changed the winner to the right winner. So that might be a bit of a glitch. Right, set winner to 2, because obviously if player 1 crashes, player 2 wins. And we'll change all this later on so it works correctly. Good. So there we go. So set the winner, broadcast game over, and of course, let's have a look. When I receive game over, let's have a look. We'll hide the bike, and we'll clear everything on the pens. Good. So when I receive game over, hide the bike and clear. Let's just test that now. Let's make sure that works. Let's just crash into yourself. There you go. Oops. Excellent. And we'll stop all the other scripts on this sprite. Stop other scripts in this sprite. Let's have a look. Let's try that. There you go. Actually, for some reason here, it's not clearing at the start. Because we need to lift the pen up, don't we? When start pressed, when I receive game over, let's lift the pen up as well. There we go. Start. There you go. Perfect. So he crashes, it removes him, the winner's set to player 2, and he's hidden, ready for the game over screen. So let's do the game over screen. A game with a game over screen, you can click on new sprite, add all the letters, so it says player 1 wins or player 2 wins. What I'm going to do is I'll just upload my previous one so that I'm not taking ages in the tutorial just to see what I'm doing. So there you go, so player 1 ping, there you go. And let's just change this to winner, because that's the name of this is the winner screen. And here, at the moment, I've got one costume that says player 1 wins, so let's change that to costume 1. And then we'll upload the second costume. Again, if it's up to you, if you don't want to use your own sprites, then you can just upload the ones that via the link. But if you want to make your own, it's just as good. There you are, player 1 wins, player 2 wins, perfect. Let's move them to the right spot, make them a little bit smaller so they sort of fit. There you go. Brilliant. So now we've got player 1 wins or player 2 wins. So what do we need to say here? Okay, well at the start of the game, we need to hide this sprite because we don't want it to be visible. And then when we receive game over, we switch the costume to whichever costume it needs to be. So this would be if else, if, where's our winner? If our winner equals 1, there we go. If winner equals 1, set the costume to number 1, otherwise set it to number 2. There you go. And then we show. So we try showing that. Looks, show. Excellent. So let's have a look. Grid bike start. He's moving around. Crashes. Player 2 wins. Perfect. Good. So now we've got player 1 sorted. He's about there. What we can do now is we can duplicate the sprite. And we can add the extra bits for the second sprite. So duplicate. Good stuff. There's our second sprite. Let's just click start. Notice we've got 2 sprites now. There you go. 1 and 2. That's player 1. Player 2, a couple of things that we need to change. His start position here needs to change. So let's drag him over to the right spot, which is going to be there. And now if we click on the motion blocks, he's set the correct X, which is 211. So let's do 211. Good stuff. And that's okay. And this time he's got its damage. That'll be his own damage, which is fine. Change damage. Here we go. If damage, we get the 2, so win it to player 1. Good. Excellent. That's okay. Broadcast. And that hopefully should now mean that if we press start. Oh. We've got the same colour. Here we go. At the moment, these two have got the same colour lines. Well, let's change that to this guy can do purple, green. Let's do a green line. There we go. So we're going to use a green line. I'm going to use that green from here. So if red is touching, and let's do this green. Good stuff. And oh, actually, yeah, we'll change that. We'll also set the colour to green as well. There you go. So now, hopefully, he will draw a green line. And if we got a problem here. Let's have a look. So as you can see, what I've forgotten to do here is change the controls. So these player 2 controls need to be the left arrow and the right arrow. Let's have a look. Let's try that now. And there you go. Good. So if he crashes into his line, then he'll get player 1 wins. If player 1 crashes into it, then player 2 will win. But what we also need to do as well, which makes the game far more interesting, is if they crash into each other's lines. So, like that at the moment, it doesn't register that you can go across each other's lines, which makes it pretty boring. So what we need to do now is we need to make sure that it's checking for hitting either of these colours, the orangey colour or the green colour. So what we do is an OR. There we go. Duplicate. And let's just drag that one in, duplicate there. That can go into there. So now, move that out of there. So now we've got this OR, and we're checking against either colour there. In fact, actually what I'll do is I'll just duplicate that. And then we'll just drag that into there. And I'll swap the original touching colour one there for the other touching colour one there. Good. These are all a bit small, aren't these codes? Let's make them a bit bigger. There we go. So if red is touching green or red is touching yellow, then you change damage by 1, which is good. That should work on both of them. Let's just have a quick look. Start. Why has that done that? Start. There we are. So now, there you go. If either of them hit either their own line or another line, they will crash and they will die. Now, there's only one more glitch to sort out, I think. Here we go. And that is here, if a player goes to the end of the screen, they don't die. They just sit there looking at the wall, which is no good. What we want to say is, okay, if you hit the end of this wall here, then you die. Now, what we could do is we could say, we could use the sensing thing here, and we could do if touching edge. There we go. If touching edge, and add that to another OR. So if colour is that, or touching edge, then they could die. But then there's a problem, because even if you're near the edge and the whole sprite is just supposed to be touching the edge, we aren't actually crashing into it. If it's just on the edge of it there, it's still going to break, which it's still going to give them as game over, which is just too sensitive. We already wanted to do it so that if they hit the edge and they stay stuck there, then we give them game over. So how do we do that? Well, a nice easy little trick. And what we do is, for each player, we make a variable, make sure it's for this sprite only, and we have an old x value. So we keep track of their old x value. Make another one and make sure it's their old y. There we go for that sprite. Good. And what we do is, before they move, we set their old x and their old y to their previous coordinates. There we go. Their old x is their x position, the old y is their y position, which is good. There we are. So the old x is the x position, the old y is the y position. Move 2 steps. And what we say now is, we do another if statement, and after they've moved, we check to see if their new x and their new y position is still the same as their old x and their old y. Because then we know if their position is still the same, then they haven't moved, so they must have crashed against the edge of the screen, because otherwise they would just keep on moving. So we do an and we do some equals, put some equals, one of these equals into each of the and now what we do is we say, okay, if their old x is the same as their old y, if their old x is the same as their x position, and their old y is the same as their y position, we know they've stopped, and therefore we need to set the winner for 2, broadcast game over. As you can see, that just now I've dragged that in, it's just noticed that that's happened. So it's broadcast that onto player 2. So what we'll do here is I'll just delete player 2 for the moment, and we'll just duplicate player 1 again. And because it's easier just to duplicate the correct code, there you go. Duplicate player 2 again, set the pen code to green, and now it should have old x and old y. There you go, you can see for each of those 2 players they've got the old x and the old y, which is good. And we'll just change that to 211 again, so this starts in the right place. And this time if you crash, let's go to player 1 for the winner, player 1 for the winner, there we go. And hopefully that now, if I just hide these, let's go back into there and hide all these, we can't see them. Start. There we go. Oh yeah, need to change over these controls again. Go back onto player 2. Left arrow, right arrow. Start. There we go. And now, hopefully, if he crashes into his own line, good. Player 1 wins. Let's try that. And player 1 is that the same? Yep. Player 2 wins. Good. Let's just check if he crashes against there. Again, yep. Good. If he crashes, the other player wins, which is good. And the last one, let's just check if they cross their paths. Let's have a look. So here it should say player 1 wins. There you go, done. So that's the main mechanics of the game all sorted. All we want to do now is we need to add some sounds. So the first sound we're going to add is the intro loop, the drum intro loop, which is good. So what we can do here, I'll do this on the main Grid Bikes bit here. I'll attach it to the Grid Bikes title bit here, because then I know where it's at. So all we need to do, there we go, is when we start. If I actually get on the start click there, when we press start, here we go. What we'll do, set the volume to 100%. And we'll do one of the drum loops. We'll just repeat it 4 times. You can do it as many times as you want. I'm just doing it 4 times because if you have a drum loop on for ages, it can get a little bit annoying. Let's go on to music loops. So look, which one is it? Whoa, not that one. Let's have a look. There we are. Ooh. Yeah, that one. Dance Funky, that's the one I used. So I'm going to use Dance Funky. Here we go. Good. Get rid of that popping sound. We don't need that. Good. And here we go. Repeat 4 times. sound, dance, funky. Good stuff. Excellent. Good. So, hopefully now we can start. Excellent. So, there we go. There's our dance funky, and it plays the sound. Obviously, when we press start, we want it to fade out. So what we can do there is we'll just do a repeat. We use 10 times, and to do our fade out, let's have a look. Change volume by -10, so that will slowly fade out. And we'll wait, just wait 0.1 second. So that should mean that that sound, the drum sound, when you press start, it should, over the period, the course of a second, just slowly fade out. There we go. So let's have a look. There you go. So that's a nice little fade out into the main game. Good. Good. So there you go. So that's the start bit done. Also, we'll now add the sound for the bikes. The bike sounds is just one generic sound for both. So we'll just attach it to the start block. And there we are. So look, we'll attach it to here actually. Broadcast start game, hide. And what we'll do here is we will sound, set the volume. I think 100% is a little bit loud for those car volume, the bike volumes, noises. So we'll just set it to 30%, and we'll just use some of the inbuilt notes. We'll play some notes. You can change yours to whatever you want. You could use the keyboard notes here, but I'm going to put it a bit lower. Let's have a look. Yeah, that's about right. So that's the right sort of sound note. But for our instrument, let's set the instrument to one of these synths, which should hopefully... Whoops. Let's have a look. There we go. Excellent. Good. So, let's have a look. Broadcast. When this broadcast is hide, set instrument to 20. Play note for. There we are. And we will. Let's have a look. Okay, yeah. So there it is. We'll change it from 0.5 beats, which is half a second. We'll change that to 500 beats, which is 500 seconds. So now, if we press start, there you go. There you go. That's it. The drum beat goes, as soon as you press start, it fades out, but the bike sounds still keep going for as long as they're needed. What we can also do as well is, we'll do like we did on the previous one, but this time we'll say, okay, when I receive game over, what we'll do here is we'll just stop these sounds. Or set the volume to 0. Which one should we do? Stop all sounds. Hopefully that'll stop all sounds on this sprite. Good. That'll do. Stop all sounds on this sprite. And then the final sound to do is the when we get the game over. Let's have a look. When we receive the game over, we'll do a bit of a cymbal clash or something like that. So that's okay. When I receive game over, show, do that there, and then sounds, play, drum. Let's have a look. Number 2 for 2 beats. I wonder if that'll work. There we go. Excellent. Good. Drum 4. Let's have a look. Yeah, there we go. That's better. It was a bit sort of not too good. Obviously, you can do a complicated drum finish if you want, adding all the other bits, but I'll use that one. That's fine. Good. So let's see if this works now. Let's have a go. So we press start. There we are. Drive around. It's got the noises, and then as soon as it crashes, done. That's all done. So there's your grid bike game. That's all done. Stuff you can do to improve it. You could have a system whereby as the game goes on, they could speed up slightly. That would be one way of making it better. You could change the colours of your bikes so they have different colour bikes. You could also have a system where they pick their own colour, maybe. Well, that'd be quite difficult. But there it is, a nice, simple grid bikes game. I hope you enjoyed this. If you do enjoy the tutorial, make sure you do subscribe so that you can keep up to date with any of the new tutorials that I bring out. Thank you very much and good luck. Any problems at all, just add a comment into the YouTube video and I'll get back to you. Thank you.